Yo, Natsu here. Welcome back to part 6 of What If Deku Had Red. I'm a tad bit sorry. I'm recording this early, but I currently don't have Wi-Fi at home, so this video might be coming out a bit late. So, a few things I want to start with before continuing where we were in the sports festival. I don't think I've ever said Deku's name, well, hero name. Actually, I even looked on Discord. I don't think I've even given him this name that I chose for him. So, Deku's hero name is Red Bolt. Simply put, his power is purely red with fire and lightning. So, Red Bolt. It does sound like he would be like another speedster from the Flash series or some shit like that, but meh, I like the name. So another thing that I kind of noticed I didn't mention is that Deku, well, that was supposed to be mentioned in the last part, which I noticed I jumped over by accident. Deku, after receiving Blue, was testing out a few more things with Red, trying to see if by compressing it he could turn it into another color. Which, of course, it didn't work. That was just a small mention I wanted to say. He compressed it a lot and actually found a way to do something even he finds quite dangerous. The reason I'm mentioning it is because it was supposed to be said in the last part, and I'm sorry I missed it. What he did was basically concentrate the red so much on a single point by making a ball of red, compressing it all the way to the middle, while trying to keep the exterior still relatively not compressed so he could still hold on to it. What happened is that after a while, because his control wasn't good enough, it basically blew up like a bomb, which luckily for him he was on the beach, and he basically glassed a section of the beach, like it's purely glass. Where that was, he did rip apart his own arm. Luckily he can heal, but yeah, that was something I wanted to mention about his training. So, going back to where we were, after the running part, it's now the team battles. The team actually ended up a tad bit different for this one. It's not too big of a change, so it doesn't really bother later on. But just give me a second here. My phone started putting notifications. Give me a second while I remove them. Sorry about that. I got 3 different ads for Salvatore all at once. Anyway, as I was saying, the teams are a tiny bit different, and there's a reason for that. Ochako and Mina are switched. The reason I say it won't matter in the long run is because both of their team also won anyways, so meh. Both are still gonna pass. The reason those two change is actually for something I've been placing on. Which is actually that Deku decided, after kind of looking around and trying to feel a lot more, when he was tasked with getting a group, compared to Ken and Deku, he actually decided on people for himself. Bakugo had already started making his group, so Deku took the same people as in canon, except that when he saw Ochako and Mina, he actually decided to go for Mina. Basically, he can feel something from her that he's unsure about. He's been looking for it for a while, so now he's almost certain of it. So, as the cavalry battles are about to start and that Deku has his group, he asked Mina, can she concentrate as much acid as possible? He wants to feel her quirk more, like see how it really acts when she truly pushes it. Because last time he was feeling something more to her quirk, but he thought it was just because she was really pushing it. But now, having a bit more knowledge on things, he wants to see. She doesn't really understand why he wants to know that, so she still shows him because she thinks he might have a plan for the cavalry battle, and it might require her to see that. So, she starts making her acid and truly trying to push a really good amount of it in to make it as strong as possible. And as she's doing that, her skin starts to take a bit of a green tinge, as well as the acid turning a bit greenish. Which Deku asks if she can feel that specific feeling of energy. She has no idea what he's talking about, and he tells her he might have to do a small conversation with her afterward when they have time. Because she might be able to grow stronger. She has no idea what he means, but I'm sure you started to understand what I mean. Anyway, for the cavalry battles, quite honestly, Deku just demolishes most people. Like, he only wants one thing, to keep his points, and to try and push Bakugo's button a bit. So, he basically makes a wall of red around them, pushes out a massive amount of heat, not enough to burn people, but it basically pushes out a massive wall of hot wind. A lot of people get pushed around, hate it. Shoto basically tries to make a little wall of ice to try and block it. And as all that happens, Deku basically makes a hand out of red and grabs only one set of points. Bakugo's. And the moment he does that, Deku basically creates a literal wall of fire around him and his teammates, and just make sure nobody can get in. On the inside, though, they don't feel hot. So, Shoto tried to freeze the thing to open it up, but because Deku is putting red and fire around it, it kind of doesn't go too far. It does push against the fire, but the ice melts too fast because of the red, so that's a bummer. And so everyone else basically has battles amongst themselves, trying to figure a way to just get enough points. During that time inside the ball, Deku is using blue to just keep themselves just cool enough. He is trying to learn other ways of using it, so that's a good way. Starts by controlling the temperature. Cool things down a bit. When the battles are over, the same teams who've won in canon have won. Only difference is Deku has the most points. Because, well, you know, his own first place. The heroes, mostly Endeavor, saw that Deku has a pretty fucking good control over fire, as well as whatever his red was that was able to grab one set of point and just go back to hide. A lot of people thought at first, oh, he must be afraid of losing his points. But then they saw how, well, someone literally pushed a wall of ice into his thing and it just melted the entire ice without even moving. Which basically changed a few opinions of he must be weak and afraid to, oh god, it's better for everyone else. They just think if he uses something like that on the other's children's, he could actually injure people. Which, true, but he also knows how to control it to not do too much damage. Endeavor, on the other hand, is just thinking that this kid's, well, fire is quite amazing. You know, Endeavor, the little bastard of fire. So, he's wondering if that kid can push Shoto, well, Todoroki, to use his own fire as well. Since this guy literally could make him at least angry from being weaker than him. Or at least that's how Endeavor sees it. But Shoto... yeah, nah. It's not really that he gets angry at Deku using his fire, since he understands that it's completely different. Deku uses red, which he sees as stronger than his father's fire. Since Deku literally said, oh yeah, as long as he puts red around himself, he's gonna absorb any flame that goes through him. So he literally just thinks, he could be a good way to fight my father. Sorry, Endeavor. Your kid literally sees that guy as a counter to you. Anyways, just give me a second. I'll be right back. Sorry, I needed to go drink. I normally have a bottle with me, but last week mine broke. Not last week, 2 weeks ago. So I currently don't have water next to me. I have to go get a glass of water. Anyway, at the same time I went to just refresh my memory on the order of battles for the next part. Since in the sports festival, you know, there's the running part, the cavalry part, mid-event stuff that basically don't really matter, so most people don't even talk about them. They don't give points, no nothing. Scavenger hunt, something like that, whatever. But yeah, I wasn't really able to remember in which orders the battle were for the most important characters. So yeah, now I can remember them correctly. And I'll be honest, except for 1, 2, I think 4 battles, nothing really changes. So, for the first battle, Deku versus Shinzo. Um, quite honestly, for this one, I think the start won't really change. Deku will be told in advance that, oh yeah, no, that guy don't respond to his questions. Deku would still accidentally respond, probably thinking, if his power is to control, maybe if I put red around my body, I'll be able to block it or something. Which, kind of. But basically, all it did was slow down Deku's movement from trying to get out after Shinzo basically told him to. But as Deku is walking, with Shinzo thinking, I've won, 2 things starts to happen. First, the red and the blue are basically pushing against all of Deku's fibers, trying to, break him out of it. He's still conscious, so he's trying to move it around to do something. But for some reason, when he's trying to put it in his body to kind of force his movements to stop, it doesn't really work correctly. He's in too much distress to finally control his power to just block himself. From moving. But also, as he's moving around, he feels something. As if something else in his body started to push, and then he feels his finger start to hurt. Until suddenly, everyone just feel a wind pressure from 2 movements of fingers. One for All was put in there, and he broke his fingers like he did in the actual event from Canon, because he didn't have anything to protect his finger in that moment. He literally just felt as if One for All took control of itself and pushed everything out. Luckily for him, it doesn't take long to fix his fingers, so he's gonna be fine by the next event. But still, Shinzo was pretty surprised. Deku in that moment almost responded to the question Shinzo asked next of what was that, but held himself in. He then, in a single fluid motion, made wind pressure and just pushed Shinzo out. Like, no conversation, no nothing, just blasted him out of there. Few people were wondering what happened at the start, and then Deku just blew a massive amount of air to the ground, turned around, and just moved his arm, pushing Shinzo out. The battle was basically anticlimactic from point 1 to 10. Like, start to finish, way too weird to understand. The next battle, that's basically with someone pretty important, is, I think it was Bakugo versus Ochako. It's pretty similar. Just this time, Bakugo holds back a bit. Not to bully her or anything like that. He's basically doing the same as in canon, but just while also trying to see what more she can do physically. basically a bit more like trying to train her at the same time. Like, Deku did that with him a lot, and it basically became partially ingrained inside of him that, like, you can take pity on someone without holding back too much, but still while making them understand, like, how to maybe improve. So for him, it's basically just like try to keep attention on everything, blah blah blah. A few heroes have the same reaction as in canon of stop bullying her and end the battle. But because of him basically telling her to, like, oh yeah, keep looking around you, don't get distracted by the small things, as well as like look at how someone moves if you know their quirk, basically anticipate what they're gonna do. A few others also basically see Bakugo as like, oh no, he's actually doing something pretty interesting there. Like, he knows he's gonna win, and he knows she's gonna lose. So why not at the same time show her a way to, like, better herself? That's how a few see it. Basically putting Bakugo a bit higher in their eyes. It's not by much, but it still shows like, oh yeah, he's still trying to help her improve, which he actually does unconsciously just because Deku did it way too often to him. Like, they were on a similar amount of power for a while, but Deku basically being like literally something that can stop Bakugo's quirk kind of allowed him to win most times. That small change will help Bakugo in the long run, but it's gonna take a while. Shoto's battle are the exact same, and practically the same for the other battles, actually. So, skip. Give me 2 seconds here. Sorry about that. Okay. So, after that battle, first the ring had to be remade because Bakugo and Ochako basically used a lot of debris and shit like that. So, Deku versus Todoroki. One thing that's gonna happen in this fight is that Deku will be trying to push Shoto to use his fire side. Not because Endeavor asked him to do so either, because he still got asked by Endeavor to force Shoto to do that. But Deku had a few things to say to Endeavor when he tried to say that. The first thing he said to Endeavor when Endeavor tried to ask him to force Shoto to use his flames was, you know how bad he feels about your flames, right? He doesn't want to use his own quirk because of you, which angers Endeavor a bit. And then Deku just says, I'm gonna force him to use his flame not because you want him to use them. I'm gonna force him to use his flame because that's the only way he's gonna have a fighting chance. And that makes Endeavor royally pissed off because he feels like Shoto should be able to win no matter what if he uses his flames. He should be the strongest. So, when the battle is about to start, Deku tells Todoroki, yeah, your dad tried to talk to me. He's a bastard, you know that? So many people heard that because he didn't even hold back on his voice. He just screamed it out loud, practically. Which the number of people who knew, oh yeah, Endeavor is Shoto's son, basically just kind of looked around a bit, like, what's gonna happen here? And he basically told Shoto, he tried to ask me to force you to use your fireside just because he wanted to see it. Todoroki started to get angry, and Deku repeated the same as he said to Endeavor, but he doesn't get it. I'm gonna force you to use your fireside because that's the only way you're gonna be able to fight me off. That gets Shoto angry now. So, the battle starts. Todoroki tries to use his eyes only, but Deku doesn't even move around. He literally just stands there and makes wall of red. And then cracks those walls by pushing a lot of red into them. Sometimes he just uses fire, sometimes he uses lightning to show how close he could get to basically finishing him in a single hit. And then after a while, Deku just tells him, you know, I'm not even using half my powers yet. I have an entire other set of power I could use, and you're not even forcing me to use that. I'm only blocking and I'm doing more damage to you. He gets angry. He tries to push more, but Todoroki ain't able to do anything to Deku. The people are looking at this and are realizing that Deku's not moving at all, while Todoroki is slowly getting closer to him, trying to push him out. But also, they heard Deku say, I'm not using a part of my quirks. Shoto is holding back half his power, so Deku is doing something similar, not using half his powers. Most people then realize that he's right. When Deku was announced for what quirks he had the quirk called Red Power and Superhuman. I think that's what they call the One for All in canon, for just the quirk he had in school, or Superpower. Whichever, he has two quirks. If he's not using one of them, and that he's still that strong, how strong could the other one be? As Shoto gets more angry and then starts talking about how he feels about his father's flame, blah blah blah, Deku literally tells him, that sounds annoying. This takes the breath out of Todoroki a bit, and then Deku takes a single step forward while pushing himself further with One for All to be right in front of Todoroki. He looks down at him because he's in the air and basically tells him, why do you keep referring to them as your father's flame? And then people see it. Deku's arm gets charged with a greenish lightning. Todoroki makes a wall of ice in front of him, and Deku uses only 5% of One for All, and basically smashes the wall, pushing Shoto back almost to the edge. And then Deku tells him, those are your flames. They're your quirk. You don't need to associate them with your father. Yes, they come from him, but they're your power. Use them. Show him that you're better than him. If you feel so bad about your dad, then prove to him that you can be better with his power than he ever could be. Show him that you're stronger than him in every possible way. Show him that you are better than him. in every possible way. Todoroki basically just kind of takes it all in. And Deku tells him, do you really want to always say that they're your father's flame, or do you want to make them your own? And prove him to be weak? As Deku was saying that, his other arm was glowing red. He was putting red in there and decided to just punch out, thinking, and saying out loud, if you don't want to use your quirks, I'm just gonna end the battle. And right before Deku's about to punch, a massive burst of flame comes out of Todoroki, shooting directly towards Deku. And Deku just grins. The moment it engulfs Deku, people are starting to be afraid at first, until, well, the flame just kind of disappeared behind Deku. They would have thought that it would keep going until they've noticed something. A wall of red just engulfs the flame until there's nothing more, and Deku just kind of closes the ball in his hand, and it's gone. Deku just absorbed all that flame with his red. Some of it still burned him in his clothes, but that's not too bad. He's gonna be fine. And they just see him smiling, telling Todoroki, now this is getting fun. Todoroki is smiling a bit, thinking, well, saying, I'm gonna show you. And the battle starts, and it goes hard. Todoroki uses his ice and his flame to try and push out Deku, who simply blocks with either red when it comes to his ice, or punches towards his flame, making a wind blast that basically closes them. Not closes them, extinguish them. Todoroki is trying to get closer to Deku to harm him by using his quirks, while Deku is basically just toying around. But because Deku knows how to do that thanks to Bakugo, it doesn't actually look like he's toying around too much. He truly seemed to be trying to get out of the way. One thing nobody notices, though, is that Deku keeps at least letting some ice stay, and always grabs onto it. Todoroki did notice, and thinks, what is he doing with that? Because every time he grabs it, it just melts in his hand, which is actually Deku trying to use red to push all of the cold into himself, by basically exchanging the outside air to heat, which doesn't work that well, until Shoto is basically a bit pissed that he keeps trying something like that. He doesn't understand what Deku's trying, but clearly he's not completely in the battle, and basically tries to overfreeze Deku in an entire glacier. Deku lets it happen. He's completely engulfed in ice, and he tries to absorb as much of the power from it as possible. People just think, wait, that worked. Until Deku just noticed that it doesn't do much, because there's, not enough time. So he pushes out a lot of red around him, which starts to crack the ice. And then, using One for All, just pushes out a lot of power. He basically explodes the ice around him, and decides to end it for there, and just appears in front of Shoto from the speed he had, as well as all the debris of ice falling around. He basically just moved behind those and punched Shoto in the gut, putting him out of the arena. Deku has won. I'm gonna end it here for today. Hope you liked it. Leave a like if you did. I'll see you back in 2 days. Or tomorrow, depending on when I'm able to upload this. I've just finished doing the video, and I still don't have Wi-Fi, so see you someday, I hope.